2023 has come to a close and I've decided what the best releases of this year are in terms of fragrances, of course, because that's what we talk about here. We honestly had an amazing year of some amazing releases, but we also had some subpar and just okay releases. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the 8 best releases of 2023. This was incredibly hard to narrow down, but I did it, and here we are. Of the ones I've smelt, these are the top ones. Tell me your favorite designer releases of 2023, and while you're doing that, let's get into the top 8. Let's start off with an absolute banger, and that's one that I think actually deserves a lot more love, 1 Million Royale. This is actually a sleeper hit, which I think is going to get a lot more love in the coming years. Right now, I've seen it go from like 0 popularity to a lot more popular. People are catching on to this fragrance and learning that it's actually a good release, but it's going to take time. And I understand that because it's a 1 million flanker, Paco Rabanne. People love to hate on it. In my opinion, this is the mature 1 million. It has a good dose of sweetness with some cardamom, benzoin, smooth lavender with a woody cedar base. It actually has a really good performance. It lasts a long time on skin. It's a borderline gourmand fragrance, and people have learned this over time, and that's why I think that 1 Million Royale definitely deserves to be considered as one of the best releases of this year. I think you're going to love it. Okay, the next one on the list, Spicebomb Infrared Eau de Parfum. As expected from Viktor and Rolf, the Spicebomb line is just an amazing line, and this one is no exception to that. This is an amazing flanker. More of a spicy, red-hot take on the Eau de Toilette, which is kind of a fruity version of the Spicebomb flankers. It stays true to the Spicebomb line in the sense that it's very, very spicy hot with a leather, resinous-y backbone. This is very, very good stuff. Although I must admit, I haven't got the best performance out of it because it kind of sits a little bit closer to your skin. With that being said, it smells absolutely amazing. The dry down is fantastic, although the performance was a little bit mixed on my skin, and that's why it stays so far away from #1, but I still think this is an absolutely amazing release that deserves a lot more love too. Although if you're a younger gentleman, you're probably not going to like this too much because it doesn't project enormously like some of the other Spicebomb flankers, so that's why I think it's not going to get as much love in the coming years as it's going to get now. Number 6, Prada Luna Rossa Ocean Eau de Parfum. Do not let this name confuse you. This is an actually completely different fragrance from the original Eau de Toilette. This is a woody, amber, vanilla bean fragrance. It also has an incensey dry down, which adds this unique element to a designer fragrance that I did not expect. This is more of like a fall, winter, almost nighttime fragrance. It is more kind of in line with the Prada Luna Rossa Black series. That vanilla is really the prominent player in this, as the Prada Luna Rossa Black, but this is more of a creamy vanilla bean ice cream vibe that makes it very, very good for dates. Trust me, in the coming years, people are going to talk about this a lot more than they are now. I actually think that this is a fantastic fragrance, and some people are going to love it and some people aren't going to because, well, let's be honest, the name is confusing. It is nothing to do with an ocean fragrance. Now we're into the top 5. We're going to kick it off with Givenchy Gentleman Society. This is Eau de Parfum concentration, and it definitely performs like that, but wow, this scent profile confused me a lot, but also impressed me a lot. Here's why. It opens loud and sweet, but dries down as more of a classy, well-blended gentleman's fragrance. It's very intoxicating, and in fact, the actual opening surprised me because I was like, whoa, this is really loud, but it kind of dries down a little bit more of a classy, medium to light projector. So do not go off of the opening from this because it is a little bit confusing. It dries down to a cardamom, vanillic, floral fragrance with a woody, earthy backbone. And honestly, they did such a good job with the top notes here because it drew me in and I immediately had to buy a bottle at full retail. So far, regardless of the performance, this is an incredible release that I think will be talked about for years to come. Let's move on to number 4. So number 4 is somewhat of a new acquisition for me. This one I'm talking about is Hugo Boss The Scent Magnetic. A lot of people recommended me to get this, and I completely understand why. It is unique, which is obviously not typical to designer fragrances. Now, obviously this has that Maninka fruit, which is kind of a fruity sweetness that is typical to all of the Boss The Scent fragrances, but what makes it stand out is this bran note that you're gonna basically be able to detect its entire life. Also, there is black vanilla husk in here, which is not a typical note. That black vanilla husk adds this slightly smoky, sweet, earthy, dark vanillic vibe to this fragrance. There's also this nice spice in there that makes this incredibly intoxicating, but also pretty powerful. Like on my skin, I'm getting pretty good performance and good projection, and it smells unique, which is not common for designer fragrances. I just have to get another hit of this one. Yes. And also, I was getting some nuances and changes throughout the duration of this fragrance, which made it seem a little bit more high-end than some of the other designer releases. And honestly, the scent profile does not smell overly synthetic. It smells like there's a lot of natural ingredients in here. This is a fantastic fragrance, and I think a lot of people need to check this out and give it more love. Hugo Boss The Scent Magnetic. And look at this bottle. Okay, so now we're into the top three. If you've been watching this channel, you probably already know what I'm gonna talk about. That is Invictus Victory Elixir. I think this was an absolutely fantastic release for Paco Rabanne and the Invictus line. This is basically an amber vanilla fruity opening with a chocolate coconutty dry down that's perfect for the fall and winter. That coconut is not very prominent, but it is slightly detectable, and it has this incense that comes throughout the duration. It just becomes a little bit more powerful. It is also quite loud and a very, very good performer. That's why you're gonna see it on a lot of people's top 10 lists, and it's worthy of that. A lot of people are gonna develop anosmia. They're gonna become nose blind to this fragrance because it is quite powerful. It is chocked full of synthetic notes, so your nose is gonna start to filter it out. But if we're talking about compliments, like this is a fragrance that was built upon getting compliments from strangers, then I think you should check this out. If you haven't, I mean, most of you have, but still, let's move on to number 2. My second favorite release of the entire year 2023 was Le Mal Elixir. This is an incredible honey tobacco lavender minty fragrance with a big vanilla hit. Wow, this stuff, if we're talking about powerful fragrances that you're gonna smell from a mile away, this is that fragrance. It is an elixir flanker after all, and all elixir fragrances pretty much are going to be super powerful. This is no exception. It might even be the strongest elixir I own. This was a very good release for Jean Paul Gaultier because it was a mass appealing fragrance with a lot of power, a lot of projection, and very sweet, which is what a lot of the younger crowd want in fragrances nowadays. So it's going to be a top seller for years to come. And that's why I think a lot of people are gonna love this fragrance, myself included. I love my sweet fragrances with a lot of power. Very good bang for your buck. And look at this presentation. It's like an Oscar. I've talked about this many times on the channel, although I must tell you that this can be too sweet for some people because of that honey vanilla combination that comes together. It can be a little bit too sweet and cloying for some people. So definitely taper your sprays back on this one to match the occasion that you're in. And I think you're gonna love this. If you haven't already tried Le Mal Elixir, take your sprays into consideration there because you might choke someone out. I'm just saying, do not hold me liable if someone chokes out when you put on this one. Let's move on to my favorite release and what I think is the best release of the entire year. That is Hugo Boss Bottled Elixir. What more can I say about this fragrance? I've already hyped this stuff up so much on this channel in the last month alone because I absolutely love this stuff. It is not only the most high quality smelling designer fragrance release of the year, but it is also complex while also being very unique. You cannot picture anything that smells like this, I'm telling you right now. And also on top of all that, being a very good performer. Did I mention that yet? It's strong, it's powerful, it's long lasting, it's gonna pull compliments, and it's unique. What more can you ask for? Usually Hugo Boss fragrances are kind of generic, mass appealing fragrances. Hugo Boss did something different here by releasing this fragrance. It kind of goes back to old school masculinity roots in fragrances. I always basically describe this fragrance as being root beer mixed with woods, spices, and incense with having a heavy dose of patchouli. This stuff is incredible. Like the scent profile to this alone is super attractive and addicting. Although I must mention that this is kind of a more classy dress up fragrance for special occasions. You're not gonna wanna wear this all the time. It's not signature scent worthy. It's a little bit more risky in that sense because you're gonna wanna dress it up. It's more of a fall, winter, cold weather fragrance, but nonetheless, it was so different from all the other designer releases that I had to immediately buy this at full retail, and that's saying a lot. I usually wait for it to hit discounters. Didn't even wait a second after smelling this originally. Go into it with an open mind. Expect something higher quality and different from most designers, and I think you will absolutely love this stuff. Maybe a little bit more love from the 30 and up crowd. That's just what I'm thinking. So that was the 8 best designer fragrance releases of 2023. Let me know your favorite releases in the comments below and your thoughts and opinions on the ones that I talked about today. I hope you all have an amazing 2024 with health and happiness ahead of you and some good scent memories to attach to that. So please leave a like and subscribe if you liked this content, and I will see you in 2024. Thank you very much and Happy New Year's.